So, USB-C has been confirmed. Good morning!
Yes, Tim, we just introduced the new USB-C AirPods Pro 2.
That's great, yes. Well, we also need to see USB-C on all Apple products by the end of 2024.
Yes. Well, the new AirPods Pro, they support lossless via the 5 GHz spectrum in the new H2 chip, so the pods are different even though we still call it second generation.
Well, okay, hold on. That's great. We got Type-C on AirPods Pro, but we need Type-C on AirPods Max, on regular AirPods, and gotta do something with the second-gen AirPods, which we're still selling.
Listen for a second. Okay, so the new H2 chip, if we combine it with another H2 chip like in the Apple Vision Pro, we can actually support a lossless signal via Apple Music streaming.
Terry, I don't think you're hearing me right now. We need Type-C on all AirPods, not just the Pros.
With a $3,500 headset and a $250 pair of headphones, we could have wireless, lossless playback because you only have to send the signal about 2 inches.
Terry, we talked about the whole listening thing. Okay, you specialize in transparency mode, and yet you're not listening to me right now.
Well, I bet we could actually get lossless over the Lightning connector. If we came up with Lightning 3.0 to put on the AirPods Max, that could enable a very low latency
All right,
conversion.
see you next year. So we got a very confusing upgrade with AirPods Pro 2.5. You know, we got USB-C on the charge case. We got another H2 chip that is not the same as the previous H2 chip, but awkwardly, even though Apple's kind of admitting USB-C is the future with the whole iPhone 15 lineup and everything, anything else in the AirPods lineup, and it is not like the other things were just fine as they were. In fact, there's a lot of changes that I would make to the AirPods lineup. So let's get the biggest and most obvious elephant in the room out of the way. AirPods Max. They needed a refresh since the day they were launched. These things are amazing and horrifying and beautiful and terrible and expensive and reasonable. I've never been more torn on an Apple product in my life because I loved AirPods Max, and yet there's still so many deal breakers with those headphones that can now easily be fixed since Apple is admitting that Type-C is going to be the future for most of their product line. So of course, bring Type-C to AirPods Max, but similar to Beats Studio Pro, also support that USB analog, which Type-C is capable of, so you could have lossless playback when using a wire. In fact, you don't even need that high a data transfer speed for the wire. So even if you just include, a USB-C braided cable, just like you include with the iPhones, when buying a pair of AirPods Max second generation with the Type-C connector, you could just plug that into your MacBook, or you could plug it into your iPad or your iPhone, and probably on any of them get lossless signal through that included cable, which I think would be a terrific upsell feature, convince a lot of people to go out and buy a new AirPods Max, because that's not going to be possible with AirPods Pro 2. If you want lossless playback on these things, you're going to have to wait for Apple Vision Pro, and also you're going to have to afford Apple Vision Pro, which most of us are not interested in spending that much money on lossless. But if Apple came up with their own pair of headphones that supported the lossless playback through Apple Music, this would be a great way to do it. And of course, bring over all of those great features that Apple has already rolled out to AirPods Pro, like the more adaptive audio and conversation awareness. Very cool things that were added to Apple's most popular model and still left out from their most expensive model, which is quite confusing to me. I would also try to redesign AirPods Max a bit so maybe they could fold up and fit inside of a real travel case. I don't care if it's fine woven, make it whatever you gotta make it out of. Not leather, but just make it out of something so that it actually feels protected instead of that weird silicone one they came up with. Nobody likes that case. Everybody's buying second and third party cases. And honestly, while you're at it, I feel like AirPods Max should have some kind of way to charge inductively, like a charging stand of some kind. You could just dock them on and they just start charging. I don't know, at least Type-C though. And because we have the 2024 deadline, I also think Apple should be working on updating AirPods 3rd generation. The obvious one, of course, is to add USB-C to the charging case for sure, but also, even though it doesn't have active noise cancellation or transparency mode, well, I guess it has transparency mode on at all times, I still think it could have conversation awareness, just like AirPods Pro, and just detect that if someone comes up next to you and starts talking, maybe it can lower the volume a little bit just by being able to detect what's going on around you. But if you're in a public place and there's people talking around you all the time and you're trying to block them out with the headphones, then I guess having a setting to adjust that conversation awareness would be nice. And of course, with the upgrades of the H2 chip, you could make the sound quality better. I also wish they could tweak the design a little bit to make it feel more comfortable comfortable in more ears, because the overwhelming consensus when AirPods 3 came out was that, yeah, they kind of sound like AirPods Pro, but they weren't feeling as comfortable for a lot of people as the original AirPods 1 and 2 design, which Apple's actually still selling for a lower price. But I personally would rebrand. I would give them a new chip and a new USB-C charging case and everything, but let's just call it the SE, because that's what the SE is supposed to mean, right? A recycled design being sold at a lower price with a newer chip, and I personally love the original AirPods design. I still have not found another pair of headphones that fit my ears as well as those original AirPods did. So I would say, heck yeah, like they don't have the Force stem and they don't sound as great as the AirPods 3 or Pro, but just have them there for people who don't care about that higher fidelity audio. Maybe even sell it at a slightly lower price, like $99, so that Apple stops losing everybody to the Amazon sales, where Amazon's always selling AirPods at a discount. I'd say they'd be a great entry point for people who are just looking for basic, just reliable, clean wireless headphones. $100 is very easy to swallow for many everyday consumers. So AirPods SE, of course, with a USB-C port, and then AirPods 4th generation with the updated charge case and maybe some new smart AirPod features. AirPods Pro 2, I guess I wouldn't really make too many changes to, other than I would have branded it AirPods Pro 3rd generation, because they put in a newer chip with lossless support and didn't want to tell anybody about it. Even if it's a small upgrade, I would rather them call it 3rd generation than what they're doing now, which is, well, if you have AirPods Pro with the USB-C charging case versus AirPods Pro with the Lightning charging case, that's much more of a mouthful, and for the tech specs, you still have to differentiate between these two models. So I just would have called it 3rd generation, even if it's a very small update. And then, of course, AirPods Max 2nd generation should support lossless via a port, and over the air, of course, via upgraded H2 chips, bring over that conversation awareness and adaptive audio like AirPods Pro 2 have, of course. And on top of all of this, I would also suggest Apple make a dedicated AirPods app. Every other headphone company has this, like Bose has them, Sonos has them. It gives you more settings, and AirPods have way more settings than typical headphones do, which is why, in my opinion, just like how the Apple Watch has its own app, it would make a lot of sense for AirPods to finally just get out of that settings app. Okay, we use settings for so many things already. We shouldn't have to jump to settings every time we want to manage AirPods stuff, like a charge limiter, which Apple has rolled out with the iPhone 15. And because my usage of AirPods varies heavily, the optimized battery charging is not very good at figuring out exactly when I plan on using my headphones. And because the batteries are so insanely tiny in these things, they run up a lot of cycles, and you can wear these things out within just a couple years, and then one of them ends up getting quieter than the other. And because Apple doesn't have a battery service program with AirPods at all, I say we should be trying to prioritize battery health the most with devices like this, more so than any other device, because you can't replace them, and a lot of the time they just sit in this charge case at 100%, degrading much, much faster. And if we had a charge limiter built into that app where we could keep it at 80% and then explicitly tell it right before we use it, or just a few minutes before we use it, that, hey, go ahead, charge up to 100%, I'm about to start using them now. Also, how much managing of firmware updates do we have to do with AirPods? Like, oh, there's a new update available. How do you make sure you get the update? Oh, you gotta make sure they're in the case, plugged in, and nearby your iPhone, connected to Wi-Fi. You have to do this whole magic trick of managing firmware, whereas if you could just see it in the app, like, hey, there's a firmware update for your AirPods, would you like to install it now? Yes, thank you. And then you just hit install. Like, it could be so much simpler. You could also manage all the customization options, whether it be the conversation awareness or what the double click, right click does, depending on which ear you're clicking on. Or you can even have it behave differently if you're in different situations, like when I'm watching a YouTube video, let the click controls do one thing, and if I'm listening to music, let the click controls do another thing, or a phone call could change the functions of the force clicker. So there's so many things, in my opinion, that we need to manage our AirPods for, and I'm just sick of having to jump to the settings app every time I want to adjust them. So I personally would suggest Apple make a dedicated AirPods app so you could manage all of these new headphones with a lot more precision. And a lot of people say, well, the Apple Watch needs its own app because it has its own dedicated screen, to which I agree. Yes, it makes sense for the Apple Watch to have an app, but the main reason I actually think AirPods should have an app is because they don't have a screen. It's not easy to rename them, change the controls for them, or adjust the settings for them, because you always have to fall back to the iOS settings app. And because there's no screen to actually change the settings or adjust little things with the headphones themselves, because you can't really look at them and control them, you have to always put them in the case, hold down the button, or do something weird like that. That's all the more reason as to why there should be more dedicated software designated to them on the iPhone, maybe even the iPad as well, but I guess that would require the iPadOS team to do work, which we cannot expect, so I guess that's probably probably why we're not getting an AirPods app. What changes or what suggestions do you have for Apple in the AirPods lineup? Are we going to suggest more color options again? Because I've kind of given up on that. I feel like if Apple wanted to give us color options, they probably would have done it by now. So there must be something brand-wise that they appreciate about having just basic white headphones. And maybe an engraving if you're stupid and don't care about your resale value. But all that good stuff, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you all in the next one.